it might serve me best to build a business or to transition my business to be more DIY. So like, how can I create solutions for my community? How can I take my knowledge and package it into DIY resources, whether it be templates or courses, so that I'm still bringing in revenue, but it requires less of me. And I think that would have been a lot harder for me to do if I wouldn't have had that moment of clarity of, I have decided that my priority is to build a business that fits into my lifestyle, no matter what my life is looking like. You know, instead of being rigid and being like, okay, this is what I want my business to be, now I need to make my life fit into that.
Welcome to Business Origin Stories. I'm Amy Schutte, your guide to crafting a magnetic message for a profitable business. This is the podcast for you if you're ready to claim the transformative power of your own origin story and use it to create a brand that finally stands out. We're here to level up, but more importantly, I'm here to help you elevate your influence, your community, and your impact on the world. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening. And remember, the stories you tell yourself are your greatest currency. Today on the podcast, I'm talking to Karsen Murray. She's a strategic copywriter for female service providers who specializes in email marketing. Karsen helps her clients become the go-to choice by clarifying their unique value via messaging, website, and sales copy. Hey, Karsen, how are you?
Good.
Good. Hey, thanks for being here with me today. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Absolutely. I love to talk, so this is a good place for me.
I want to talk about, first off, can you tell everyone where you are in the world right now?
Yes, I'm in Tampa, Florida. Born and raised Floridian, more specifically Tampa.
Tampa. I have a lot of Florida clients, which is really fun, and they're all kind of in a similar area.
Tampa's we're very up and coming here. Like, we went, if it puts it in perspective, we went from 0 Michelin stars to I think we have like 3 or 4 Michelin star restaurants now. So.
Wow. And you love their airport, right? I feel like you're always posting fun things about the Tampa airport.
Our airport, I'm biased kind of, but like our airport is the best airport in the U.S.
What a good shout out. We're going to just end this podcast episode when we're done.
So good.
Hey, okay, Karsen, let's talk about business stuff. I want to know what problem you solve for your clients. And we're going to dive into all of this because this is what people need to know, especially right now.
Yeah. So just like in plain language, I am a copywriter. More specifically, I write website, sales page or launch and email copy. And I also just like have a special love for like email marketing, more specifically, even outside of writing copy. I really love like the strategy of email marketing and the nuance of it and helping people fall in love with like using email to grow their business.
Falling in love with email. That isn't okay. I'm laughing because, as a Spirit Brand guide, as someone that does this for people too, but falling in love with email is always a hard sell because it's just extra things. So can we talk about that? Because I know everyone's like, grow your list, but you do it in a way like your newsletters are chef's kiss. I love them. I know you do really great work with your clients with email copywriting, but tell me about this shift into loving email marketing.
So that's the thing. I think that I kind of want to make email marketing cool. Like I want to make it like the cool girl. And I think that for so long we put such an emphasis on social media to like grow our business or whatever it is. And email's always been that, it's that thing that people are like, yeah, I feel like I should add it, but I just don't have time. And I honestly, like, I've never really looked at email as an option. Like, email's never been like, oh, I'll do that one day. Like, I remember back in like 2019, I think it was 2018, where I was like, no, this is a priority. And I just decided to make it a priority. And like, social media was kind of second, like, it was still important. But I think we're kind of moving into an era also where email is kind of being looked at less of a maybe and more of a must, especially because I think we're getting a little burnt out on just depending on like these ever-changing platforms to support our business.
Yeah, you did tell me a little bit about the start of your business because I have questions about that. You told me you started your business on a houseboat, so we got to talk about that. But I want to talk about this. But was email marketing, was that just like right out of the gate? You were like, I know this is important. So was that something you did right at the beginning of your business?
Yeah, I don't know if I did it like immediately. I definitely was one of, but I put more emphasis on like social media because I find social media fun. But it was very shortly after starting where I was like, okay, like I definitely want to build my list. I think the longer you wait to like start email, the bigger it feels in your mind, like, the more work it feels like, but it's really not. And I found it was so much fun. Like I had so much more fun connecting with my subscribers with email than I did on social media. Like I found it to be like more of an intimate place. I found that like you can do all this work. Like I love social media also. And I think like I'm not an email marketer who like hits social media against email because I think when you use them in tandem, it's like a really powerful combination. So it's not like either or. But with email, I found that you can build a deeper connection and you can do a lot of work. You can do a lot of work for your email list. You can do a lot of work for social media when it comes to creating content, but people are way more likely to see the email that you send them than like the posts that you create because of the natural algorithm that's on social media. So I felt like it was almost like a better use of my time.
Can you tell me, because I think email marketing can feel daunting, and I think you're right to your point of people, if they wait too long or a lot, not too long, but if they wait longer and longer, it just keeps kind of being this like thing that you should do, you're not going to do, and oh my God, set things up. And this happens to a lot of business, like you can get a long way in business without an email list, but then all of a sudden you realize you really should have been building it. And then how much further could have you, what does that look like? But what's the first thing you would say to someone if they're like, okay, I have a business or I'm just starting a business? Karsen said email is important. So where do they even start? Can you tell me? Where do you tell your clients to start?
I would start by, first, very foundationally, like choosing an email marketing platform that works for you. My go-to is Flowdesk. Like I really love Flowdesk because I find it's really easy to use. It's not complicated. There's like a very low barrier to entry. So yeah, just finding like an email marketing provider that you really love. And then to get people to join your list, you want to create like a really valuable lead magnet or freebie to attract people to your list. And I feel like that's the part where people really get held up because they're like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what kind of freebie to create. So if people are like really hung up on that, I tell them like, hey, you could also make the value you provide in your weekly newsletters your freebie per se. Like if you're delivering a weekly tip every week to your subscribers, you could have that be the the value that you provide, and just take the freebie creation away for a second until you really strategize that.
There used to be a little bit of time where people were like, newsletters don't work anymore, right? We keep hearing this. I think newsletters are having their moment. And maybe this is just a trend at the moment, but how do you get people to say, oh, this newsletter sounds great enough that I will opt in? Like, what's your secret sauce there? Because, and disclaimer for everyone, I love Karsen's newsletter, so go to her website and get it. We'll link it up. But I feel like it's just so fun. And there's a couple other newsletters I get that I just really enjoy. But tell me, how do you make that opt-in sexy enough for just a newsletter versus a lead generator?
I feel like making it exclusive. Like I try to make the content I send to my list more exclusive than the content that I post on social media. Like for instance, I recently just took a break from my email list for a little while because I was in my first trimester of pregnancy and I was so sick and I just was doing the bare minimum, and creating new content it wasn't an option for me at the time. So when I came back, quote unquote, to my newsletter, what I shared with them were things that I hadn't shared on Instagram. That was literally the name of my email, is I didn't share this on Instagram. And that's kind of what I'm known for, is like going a little bit deeper with my subscribers. Like I go broader, like I don't really hold back on social media, but I go broader on social media and more granular in email. Like it's stuff that could be borderline things that people would pay to get. So that's kind of how I make my newsletter a little bit more exclusive, and just kind of mixing it up, like sharing the behind the scenes. But email is still the number one revenue generator for businesses across the board. It even surpasses like TikTok and Instagram. So it's definitely it definitely works if you use it correctly.
Yeah, and you just mentioned something. I mean, you said your subject line
was one of these catchy things. When you're looking at an email, when you're helping your clients create an email, let's say they commit to a newsletter, what are some of the foundational things, subject line probably being one of them, that you're like, this is really the secret sauce to making sure that this content really lands for people, or is it really something they'll want to click open?
So here's the thing. This is something really interesting because I feel like a lot of my clients get super hung up on their subject lines too, which subject lines are important. Don't get me wrong. You should always be practicing writing really great subject lines. And to answer your question, like when it comes to like subject lines, I try to like leave it open-ended. Like I try to write a subject line that makes them want to open the email and get the rest of the story. But I actually read something when I was doing some research that I think like it was like 40 something percent of people, I don't remember the exact stat, but it was like 40 something percent of people will open your email based on your subject line alone, but 60 something percent of people will open your email because of who it's from, which means if you're showing up consistently in your subscribers' inbox and providing them something of value, and listen, something of value doesn't mean like you have to be giving them the best information. Like you could just be sharing like the behind the scenes of business. Like you could be getting more authentic with them. You could be going deeper with them when it comes to your content, but they will open it because they know like the value you provide was really good. So all that to say, like, don't let your subject line stop you from sending an email because you don't feel like it's good enough. But I would say that's definitely one of the things that's important, like having a great subject line, starting your email by, either starting it with like a problem you're going to solve, or again, like opening a story loop, asking a question, and then kind of diving into the body of your email. I know Donald Miller always says like the most annoying thing someone can do is like start like an email or something by talking about what they're going to talk about. Like no one wants that, like, just making it interesting for them. So I would say that that's something that's pretty important too.
Yeah, I love that. Your Instagram is just the happiest little corner of the internet. And it's just my favorite thing. So anyway, but part of what you're doing though, when you said 60% of people opening it is from who it's from. And part of that is building that brand in other places too, which I think is, they're both equally really important pieces. So what are some tips? Because you really do have like one of the best, and by best, I just mean it's the most beautiful, aesthetic and friendly, fun Instagrams out there. How do you curate that? Especially, you took a break for a little bit, which was, we were all, I think, sending you messages like we missed you online. But, how do you think through your Instagram to make people want to say, yeah, I'll sign up for your newsletter? What does that look like for you?
So this might sound a little strange. Maybe it won't, because I know this is actually a strategy in marketing, but I think it's important to like know, to know your audience. Like you want to give them something that they're going to enjoy too. But I think a big piece of my brand that I'm realizing more and more is that I'm kind of I have like an aspirational brand in a sense. Like I've been told, and this sounds weird to even say about yourself, but I've been told like, you're like a marketing cool girl. So I was like, okay, well, if that's what people see me as, like I make marketing more fun or cool, if you will, then I'm going to play off of that. Like I want to make, that's what I mean by like saying like, I want to make email like cool. Like I want to make it more attractive for people. And I think a lot of times people focus on like, how can I show people how strategic I am? But like showing people like the benefits, like I post like, yesterday on my story, I posted an email reply I got from my newsletter. Like my newsletter, like people on my list, they respond to my emails and we have conversations, and it's very like pen pal style which is like, how much more intimate could you get allowing someone in your inbox and then continuing a conversation with them after they send you an email? Like that just shows that your email felt so personal to them, which is really cool. But anyways, just as far as like the brand stuff goes, I think I really lean on like the aspirational parts of my brand. And honestly, anyone can do that. Like you're very aspirational too. Like there's an aspirational part to everyone's brand. And when I say aspirational, I just mean like, who are you that other people want to emulate? Like, do you have a business that other people want to emulate? And I think that's a whole other conversation. But I read something on Threads the other day, speaking of new social media platforms. But I read something on Threads the other day that says, before people want to purchase something from you, they actually want to emulate the type of business that you have. Like that's one of the reasons why people purchase from you. So I hope that answers your question, but I kind of play off of that.
Okay, so this kind of leads into the houseboat conversation because I want to know. I didn't know that about your business. Can you tell me how you started your business then? And I know we connected. I'll talk about, or we can talk about how we connected a while ago. But let's talk about that. How did you start your business? How did you get here?
Yeah, so I actually was a brand and marketing manager in Tampa. I'll give you like the really quick story. I was a brand and marketing manager in Tampa for a local business, and I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I grew up with entrepreneurial parents, so it's like kind of like when your mom or dad is like a doctor or a lawyer, you're like, oh, I'm going to do that too. I was just like, oh, I'm going to be a business owner. I just don't know how. So I was a brand and marketing manager, and I started thinking to myself, like, I could do this for other people. Like, I don't want to be trapped in this office like all day long for the rest of my life. Like, how can I use these skills and serve other people? And maybe I could do it online. So I became a virtual assistant because I didn't know copywriting was a thing. Like, I didn't even know that was a job. So I became a virtual assistant, and I quickly like booked myself out full time. And then I just wound up doing like jobs for my clients that were writing related. Like, they would ask me to edit their website or write their emails for their email list. And that's where I really fell in love with email and helped them with launches. And then I found StoryBrand, and I learned that copywriting was like a career. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I can like marry my love of marketing with my natural gifting of writing and be a copywriter. So I went to StoryBrand, and that's kind of after I came back from StoryBrand, which I was the last in-person class, I think, for them, because right when I got back, COVID happened. So when I got back from that, though, I made the transition from being a VA to a full-time copywriter.
That's a great story. That's amazing.
Oh, the house bill. I didn't even tell you the house bill.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Well, you talk about the house bill.
Oh, yeah. So really, really quickly, and in between that time, we had sold our house, and I was living with my in-laws, and I decided to like launch my business while I was living with my in-laws. And I did like an Instagram live, and they had a houseboat that we were kind of like staying on while we were living with them. So yeah, I technically launched my business from a houseboat. Like, I still remember like being on Instagram live and like the boat kind of like rocking back and forth. But you just have to, do what you have to do to get yourself going.
Okay, but that, I think when you write a book, that can be part of the intro, right? Launch it from a house. That's amazing. That's great. Well, and Karsen, we connected right before you went to guide training, I believe, because you gave me a call, and that was so fun to connect with you then. And then we've been connected since 2020. I can't believe that. It's gone by fast.
Yeah, you were so nice. Like, you were so nice to be like, hey, like, do you want to hop on a call before you go to guide training? And in case you have any questions. And I was like, wow, yes, that would be so cool.
Yeah, StoryBrand, the framework is amazing, and I'm glad that you use that with your clients, especially. That's really fun. That's so fun that I can't believe you were a VA. You were probably the best VA in the whole world. People didn't realize how lucky they were going to eventually have this,
You're telling me. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun while it lasted, but I'm super glad that I found out copywriting was a thing, and I was able to kind of like specialize in that.
Well, you're really good at it. And I think like the clients that you work with and the testimonials that you always share, they're always just in awe of the work that you've done. So, and I love reading your stuff. So I think you've got a lot to offer. Email marketing, though, I think if we want to go back there and just like I want to just give people like maybe 2 tangible, practical tips that they can take away. If they're not copywriters and they're just like, what do I do? Obviously, they should hire you or someone else that can do copywriting or help them out. But are there like 2 or 3 parts of an email, if they're looking at it and they're just overwhelmed, they should always include? Are there go-to things that you're like, if I was to create a template for somebody, these would be the 3 things you should always make sure in your newsletter or in your sales email? What are those?
Yeah. So I actually am creating templates soon to help people, because I know this has been, you know what? It's super. Here's the thing about email. It is incredibly easy to start a list. It is incredibly easy to grow a list, but it is incredibly hard for people to send consistent emails. So that's just, the name of the game. But as far as like what to include in your emails, definitely you want to try to personalize as much as possible. So that means like organically using your subscriber's name in your emails whenever you can. And I'm not like, don't do it awkwardly. Like, I'm saying like when it feels natural, like if you're to use their name in like a sentence when you're talking to them aloud. Another thing is to write like you speak. I feel like sometimes people go to write an email and they sit in front of their computer and they're like, oh my gosh, this is an email. I have to be super professional. But when you write like you speak, and it makes your copy more conversational. So that's just like a tip for writing styles. So definitely try to personalize, write like you speak. Always add a PS section in your email to recap the most important parts, because actually 90% of people will scan your email, read the PS to see if, it's worth their time, and then they'll go back and read it. Leaving lots of white space, so don't write 10-sentence paragraphs. Use bullet points or emojis or numbers to pull out any important information. So if you're writing an educational email and you have some topics that you want to go over, make sure they're in list form or something like that. We don't read every word we write, or people don't read every word we write, they scan it. So just making our emails as readable as possible and, just easy on the eyes will really help as well. Sales emails, make sure that you add call to action buttons multiple times throughout the emails that are really easy to see, not just one, but maybe a couple throughout. And yeah, that's what I got for you.
Those are all good. Those are so good. Karsen, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I've got 2 more questions for you and then I'll let you go. I really want to know, as you've created this business, from launching it from a houseboat, changing up what you've done, you're testing different offers and figuring things out. Has there been a piece of business advice that you've received or one that you wish you'd received or that you like to give people that you think people should know? Is there kind of a North Star that you could share with us?
Okay, I'm gonna try to be wise. I think for business is to just keep doing the next thing. So sometimes and this maybe is personal, but I think a lot of people can relate to this. I was just talking about this with a business friend over coffee this morning, but I think sometimes we get so far ahead of ourselves in what we want to create for the future that we miss out on amazing things that we could be creating to serve our community right now. And it tends to overwhelm us. And then, we just get too far ahead of ourselves. So really I'm trying to be more present in my business. I wish someone would have told me to do that instead of so easy to look around at everyone else and be like, okay, well, they seem so far ahead of me and we started at the same time. So I really need to get it together. And I think the best thing that you can do is pay attention to how you can serve your community right now and how you can serve them in ways that are less complicated, and have a lower barrier to entry. And honestly, I'm actually kind of glad I didn't know too much about what business entailed when I first got started, because I don't know if I would have started one if I knew that how challenging it was going to be. But it's also so rewarding as well.
Oh, I love that. Well, and I think one thing that I've noticed that you're just exceptionally good at is paying attention to your seasons and really aligning with what you need as a business owner. And I think that's something that a lot of us miss, because it's like that. If I start an email list, well, what happens if I have to take a break? And we get kind of in our head about it. And you continue to be, I think, living proof that you can align your business with your season and what you need. And if you need to take a break from stuff, it's okay. It's all still here for you. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because you're growing a human. You're in a very time of life right now, which is a huge shift. And yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
So an aha moment I had at the beginning of the year before I even knew I was going to have a baby this year was I think so many times we create a business and try to fit our lives into it instead of creating a business that honors our lives. And when you switch the two, your business becomes more fluid. So right now, my business has been very done for you. So I am a copywriter who works on a lot of custom projects. And I do custom website projects, sales page or launch email stuff. And it was very much hands-on. And after getting sick in my first trimester, I had a ton of projects that was just very, very hard on me. And I think it really showed me that it might serve me best to build a business or to transition my business to be more DIY. So how can I create solutions for my community? How can I take my knowledge and package it into DIY resources, whether it be templates or courses, so that I'm still bringing in revenue, but it requires less of me. And I think that would have been a lot harder for me to do if I wouldn't have had that moment of clarity of hey, like I have decided that my priority is to build a business that fits into my lifestyle, no matter what my life is looking like, instead of like being hard on myself and being like, why can't I just, instead of being rigid and being like, okay, this is what I want my business to be. Now I need to make my life fit into that. So that was a really big thing for me. And I think that's why I'm able to have so much grace for myself in making this transition. And honestly, I think if you're going to be successful in business, you kind of have to be fluid because your life is going to change so much and business changes so much. The economy changes so much that being fluid is just one of the best ways to continue to thrive.
I love that. And I think, setting yourself up for success with different things, I think part of that is building that email list, having those, that list when you have that energy, and then at times when you need to take a break, you still have that list, you've still done the work to build them. But with that, Chris, I think I'm wondering, can you talk to me a little bit about, what's at stake if you don't build an email list, especially when you're, just like we talked about right now with alignment or being more fluid, what's kind of at stake? Because I think you have that freedom to be able to be a little bit more fluid at this point because you have done some of the really foundational building pieces of marketing and business that can set you up for the next stage with pregnancy and now motherhood.
Yeah. So let's put it this way. If you depend on your website, your SEO, which is great, website and SEO, like that's a really sustainable marketing strategy. I'd say, let's say more so if you depend on social media to run your business and you're someone who doesn't have the ability to have like a full-on social media team or whatever it is, and you need to step back. Let's say you need to step back. Something happens in your life. You have a trauma or just your season is changing or something, but you have built a really solid and engaged email list. You can step away from your business social media wise. And if you have, if you've batched your emails or you have funnels in place and people are able to opt in to lead generators, your products are still being sold to people. Like you're still getting stuff in front of people without having to consistently create new content. Does that make a little bit of sense? So I know a lot of times, like I see people on Instagram who are like, hey, I know I haven't been posting here often, but please join my email list because I send out a newsletter once a week because that's what they're able to do capacity-wise in that season. So they're still nurturing their community and they're still able to make sales and generate sales. And they don't only have to depend on social media to do so, which I think is really great. And also, I think it's a really wise idea if I can be so bold as to say, like, I think it's better if we build like a more of an omnipresent marketing platform than just relying on one thing to do the heavy lifting for us. Like, why not spread out your reach, And also people, okay, here's my last example for you. This is my last example. This is one of my favorite examples to give in this scenario. Let's just pretend that, you and a competitor, like a competitor that you have the same target audience, right? And your ideal client opts in or is very interested in you and your competitor. They're shopping both of you, and you have an email list, but your competitor does not. If they're joining your email list, you're not only getting in front of them via social media, your website, whatever else, but you're also showing up in their inbox, somewhere that they're guaranteed to check multiple times a day. There's not an algorithm in there that may or may not show them your content. So naturally, you showing up more increases their likelihood to hire you because you're building a stronger relationship with them. Also, so that's something I notice as well, even with my own buying behavior.
Yeah, it's really powerful. And I think, I don't know what the stats are, maybe but sometimes, when people can get into our ecosystems and sometimes they buy right away when the buying window is right open, but other times they need to be in that ecosystem for 6 months, a year, 18 months. I mean, I look at some of the things I've bought or, the people I've worked with, and sometimes it's taken me years to come back to them, but I keep showing up consistently, usually.
But you've already pre-chosen them in a sense. So that's how I look at it too. Like there are people in my inbox that show up like multiple times a week or once a week, and I'm not ready to buy from them right now, but I keep them in my inbox because I've already pre-decided that when it's time for me to need their service, they're who I'm going to hire versus like someone else who might just be equally as good, who didn't have an opt-in or I didn't join their email list. And, this person just happens to be showing up in front of me more consistently. So I've already pre-decided that I'm going to hire them one day.
I love that. That's perfect. Okay, Karsen, I'm going to ask you like 2 more questions and I'm going to let you go. Tell me, I think I said that 5 minutes ago, but tell me what do you have a favorite business book or mindset or marketing book that you recommend people read, or your clients that you're always like, this is the go-to one? Do you have a book recommendation that you can give me?
So StoryBrand, I know that's like very cliche, but StoryBrand, okay, good. So I always recommend that people read anything by Donald Miller, truly, when it comes to marketing, like Business Made Simple or building a story brand, anything like that, for just like very practical, simple, like easy to implement stuff. So I'm really into the psychology behind like copywriting and selling, because I feel like that's like 99% of what marketing is like psychology, not in an unethical way, but just like, how are we motivated to buy? And I think when you get really interested in that, it makes you a better seller and a better writer. So a lot of my audience, our target audience are women. So there's this really good book, and I'm very sorry, I forget who the author is, but it's called Why She Buys. And it talks about like how women are motivated to make decisions and how women are the main decision makers in families when it comes to spending. And it's just like really popular because men's brains and women's brains work very differently in terms of motivation. So if your target audience is primarily women, I really recommend you read that book.
Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, I love that so much. Is there anything else that you think people should know about you, or especially about, starting an email list or growing theirs, that we haven't covered yet today?
So if you're going to start an email list, I would encourage you right now, this might feel counterintuitive, but I would first decide what kind of content you want to send your list. Like even if you haven't started the list, like decide what kind of content would I send my list? Like, am I someone who wants to send educational content? Am I more focusing on like promotional content, whatever it is to nurture your list? And then I would batch at least 3 months worth of email content. And then I would start and grow your list, because that is going to set you up for so much more success. Because what you're going to do is you're going to start your list, you're going to invite people to join it, and you're going to have 3 months worth. And we're just talking like 12 emails. If you send 1 email every week, like 12 emails, just batch them really quick and have them ready to go and scheduled to send out weekly, because that's going to motivate you when you see people opening them and engaging with them. That's going to motivate you to continue to send emails, instead of what I see so many people do is they start their list, they grow their list, people join it, and then they just ghost them. And then they're just filled with so much guilt around their email list. So reverse the process.
I love that. That's a great tip. Oh my gosh. Well, Karsen, thank you for taking time with me today. This was so fun. I'm so excited for this next season of life for you. And I just wanted to just affirm, you bring so much joy to so many people around you on the internet. I feel like your aesthetic is very aspirational. You also feel like that marketing best friend that we think we're best friends with you, but we don't know you. That you give that feeling, which I think is so important, because people crave connection. And I think you do that in your emails and your social media. And so I just want to say thank you for sharing that with us today on this podcast. And I'm so excited to watch this next season of life for you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you for letting me talk about email. And hopefully everyone feels more encouraged and less overwhelmed to start your email list.
I hope so too. Awesome, Karsen. Well, you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Business Origin Stories. Love the podcast? Be sure to share it with a friend or colleague and give us a review on Apple Podcasts. Join me on Instagram and make sure to sign up for our weekly email.